Jackson Concept Series RR24. Hello and welcome to another video of this channel where we're going to talk about something that was announced last year and came out then basically in full specs at the beginning of this year. And I'm talking about a guitar from Jackson and their new concept series. It's a bit contradicting what this model is actually called, because on some various sites they have different names for it. Some have Ibanez names and some are just an RR24 with one H. So let's dive into it and check what this is actually all about. So earlier this year, Jackson dropped the new line of 2024. One of them is the new RR within the concept series, and people are losing their minds a bit, so I'm here to settle this debate. Let's quickly talk about the guitar itself. It's a black RR24 with white pinstripes, one pickup, and an EMG afterburner boost. I think you know where this is going from here actually. But let's look at some more specs. 25.5-inch scale length, alder body, neck through body, maple neck, graphite enforced, whatever that means, but the neck is more stable than at least they claim. Lumen lace, EMG 81 with an EMG AB, so the afterburner. Top mounted Floyd Rose.
Say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
1000 series, some die-cast Jackson tuners, and as if that would matter in that case of a Floyd Rose, but anyway. It has a gloss finish, stainless steel frets, and a 12 to 16-inch compound radius. 24 frets and gold hardware. What are we actually looking at and why get people angry? So I think the first thing that people are getting angry is because this is more or less like an unofficial Alexi Laiho Signature from the past. A guitar that he used in his early days when he was still using Jacksons, very close to this one. The origin of those guitars are basically from the Finnish metal band Stone though, where Alexi got his Jackson guitars from, basically the first. But there's actually one specific guitar that Alexi actually used in the early days, including Synergy and COB, and you can see that here. But Jackson actually releasing an exact copy of the guitar that Alexi used, just with modern specs, is genius and finally something people were waiting for. At least I had the impression, since if you go to the used market, you can see all those Jackson Stars, for example, which are going for fucking crazy prices. Then don't forget the RR24, which were like in the late 2000s. There was one that was actually with the yellow pinstripes, which is very sought after because it's basically the perfect base model to build the Wild Child Alexi. Actually, the made in Japan RR24s, for example, with the yellow pinstripes, they were rising in prices recently, so I don't get people who are now like, oh, why did they release that or something, which actually doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Let's start with the most obvious. It has a preamp, like Alexi. Calm down. Jackson put actually preamps into guitars when Alexi was not even thinking about using guitars. So it's not a new concept, it's just a thing that people do and request on those Alexi-ish guitars. Not necessarily the EMG afterburner that they put in there, but it's the closest that they can actually put in their guitars by now. They could use the PA2, for example, but they're only available in chrome, and that's probably why they went with the afterburner. But why they actually went for the afterburner is actually kind of a mystery to me. Then again, using an 81 and an afterburner is just fucking ridiculous. Like Kerry King with his 81s and PA2, or Alexi with the Blackout and the MMO4. Jesus, that was so fucking insane and stupid, and it sounded like crap. And it really sounds bad. There's actually no good reason to use that. in this combination. At least in my opinion. If you have any use for that, feel free to let me know how you use an active pickup with a preamp and then boost it more than 2 more decibels or something. Because this is just actual insanity. But imagine Jackson releasing a guitar like this, which is very close to the Stone or Alexi guitar, and actually doing a rerun of the JE1000. So imagine this, you know, people would have fucking bought everything. People would have bought the whole stock before it would even get into the stores. Since this is actually a very valuable piece of gear, the original JE1000, and those pieces of gear are actually going for crazy prices when they pop up anywhere on the internet. Because a lot of them broke, a lot of them were thrown away, or are just sitting around in guitars and nobody knows where they are. And usually only the people who wants to play like those are ours and wants to play similar stuff are actually searching for them and paying those prices. In my opinion, Jackson missed out on a lot here, not doing a rerun of the JE1000, because there are actually manufacturers right now who do copies of those and they do a very good job. I didn't look now into this if the licensing and the patent is still on Jackson's side, but if it is, this is your perfect opportunity to basically go to such a manufacturer who are building them anyway and giving them the license to build them and then ship them to, let's say, Korea to build those guitars and just put them in. Because recently you can find them up to $100, and usually those are from manufacturers who do very small runs of them. So imagine you scale this up a bit, the price goes down, and then you can actually use it for production guitars. Because people are not likely to modify those guitars in general. Only very few would do, but if you have something that comes actually usable right out of the box, people would actually buy this then, instead of something else. And I'm talking here about one specific manufacturer actually who does that, who's from Poland. He's called Analog Workshop, and he does a very fantastic job. I have already a couple of his preamps in my guitars, some with some light changes, and he's a very, very humble and very good guy to build those things. He does everything on request too, so if you want anything changed on those, he will do that. Yeah, shout out to that guy. But well, for an import guitar, I get why they chose to use something that's already available on the market. So yeah, it's an import, so that's fucking affordable, right? No. Jackson actually said fuck you this time. This guitar is actually built in Korea, but you thought and you wanted it to be Japan so bad. There's a thing that I don't know why you actually want it to be Japan so bad, because yes, I know. For example, there were those made in Japan, yellow bevels and red bevels are ours. And there were the Jackson Stars, which were built in Japan and everything, and they were very nice guitars. But then again, in the last years, there were a lot of guitars which came from Korea, from China or something, and they were fantastic. And to be fair, I don't care where it comes from in terms of like, oh, it's made in Japan, or hey, it's made in Korea. I actually only care about if the instrument is actually a valuable piece of gear and that the quality control on like the whole spectrum of guitars that they build is on a level where we can all accept it. So you get a guitar that's actually good no matter what you buy, and not have this gamble feeling if maybe you will get a good piece, you know. Then again, Jackson and a lot of other made in Japan guitars were very, very great in the 90s and early 2000s. But everybody just caught up a bit. So I don't get this idea now where you're like, oh, I need this to be made in Japan. It's just a nice thing to know, oh, it was made in Japan. But that's it. If the instrument would be the exact fucking same from Korea and from Japan, so why would you actually bother about that? I don't get that. The Korean guitars became actually fantastic over the last decade, and they make phenomenal guitars, so that's actually not a thing to be worried about. I mean, there are good and bad guitars from Korea, there are good and bad guitars from Japan, But I have to say that I lost a bit of trust in the quality control of Jackson lately. Last year I've been through a couple stores and I've seen a lot of Jacksons too, and sometimes the quality control was a nightmare. And even the quality control on $1,600 guitars, which is concerning. There were features where I was thinking that how would you even put this out? So for example, there was one, I think it was Pro Series or something. It was made in Korea, and they had basically an unfinished neck and a finished body, and they gradually taped off the paint. The transition from the body to the neck were like stairs, literally like stairs, but with paint. So you could actually feel all those stripes. That was awful. I mean, this is nothing that is something that you cannot fix in general. Just imagine somebody in the quality control or factory would actually use around probably 10 minutes of their time to just even that out. Taking like this abrasive fabric and then just getting rid of this transition there, you know, which is like fucking stairs and layers of paint. So you could actually use this and do some polishing and grinding, and that's it, you know. And then for $1,600, that would be actually better then. But in that case, even though the rest of the guitar was actually quite nice, this is the only thing that stayed in my mind, and that's usually a thing that people remember, which is bad shit. On the other side, I was very impressed of the last concept series, the white one with the neck pickup there. I saw it a couple times. I spoke to two people who have this guitar, and they said that they are phenomenal guitars, and I believe them. But then again, I only have like one reference of those guitar always. So if I checked, let's say, 10 different Jacksons, and there were a couple that were not nice or were nice, I still only have a fraction for my statistical data. So it might be that I got like a Monday model, or it might be that I got a model where somebody really put a lot of effort and they're in the factory. What's the big deal then? The specs are great, it looks cool, and it seems to be a guitar that I don't have to drill holes in next time, and I only have to sand the neck, right? Let's stick with drilling holes, because it actually has everything that I have and I want on guitars, which is basically a volume knob and a switch. I can get rid of the afterburner and just put there a switch with a preamp that I want to have and just switch out the pickup. But it's a top-mounted Floyd Rose, and that's one reason why people went wild. And I saw this happening in some Children of Bodom groups. I saw this happening in some Jackson groups, and generally on the internet a bit, that they were shocked that it was top-mounted. I was too, first, actually. I was actually first too very sad about this, because I have a... So if you don't know now what top-mounted is, I will show you. Give me a second. So, this is one of the latest LTDs. It's an M1 custom 1987 crackle finish. Okay, it's a very nice guitar. It has one, I think it was SH6 or something. One volume knob. It actually had a push pull, but it was absolutely atrocious, and we swapped it out. And it has a PA too. And one thing that it has a top-mounted Floyd Rose, which means this Floyd Rose is, as you can see, not recessed. But the neck angle and everything is so... Let's say the Floyd Rose is mounted so close to the body that you actually have to angle the Floyd Rose to pull it up. And the string height is actually not that low or not that high in general. So yeah, this is actually a hassle, since you can see that this is very close and this is the only thing that you can pull it up. That is actually something that bugs me a lot while playing. Because if you use a lot of Floyd Rose action, down is no problem, but up, this is the only thing that bugs me about this guitar actually, it's the Floyd Rose. I will actually recess that in post, but I don't have permission to recess it because it's not one of my guitars. Yeah, sometimes you actually have to live with that then. But this might be something on this Jackson that will be very annoying. So it's actually only annoying if the Floyd Rose is too close to the body because of the neck angle to the body or the neck height in relation to the body. So since we don't have really pictures of this or anybody who had this guitar in his hand, this is something that we have to wait for and see it. Until it comes out, we have no clue. But it, like I said, it depends a bit how you build it. So it might be that you're not limited in an upward or downward movement depending on the build now. So it's actually not a reason to get angry yet. Because actually, if they will put the Floyd very close to the body, I might be thinking about routing this out then. So I can actually use it how I would use it. Because I'm very interested in this guitar and I might buy this actually. I would then actually route the guitar, but this is usually not an option for many of you. So we'll have to wait for this. But there's hope, you know, because since you were all really raging about this fact, the dime from hell was not recessed. And dime that a lot of crazy Floyd Rose stuff there. It really depends on the build. Here's a very funny fact, because I had to check that. The original Jackson USA Customs that were used by Stone, so like from Rope, and were used by Alexi later, they were not recessed at all. None of them were. Not the Wild Child model, not this one, not the green one. They were not recessed. So, and I had to look this up too. I didn't know that. I never noticed. But then again, I was never really interested in this due to the availability of those in general, because you cannot get them really. And if they pop up, they want like your liver or something. So in general, this guitar actually doesn't seem that bad. You have very nice specs in general. You have modern specs with stainless steel frets. You have lumen lace. You have graphite enforced neck. Which, if that's actually a thing, that the neck is then more stable, then I'm fine with that. Nothing seems now bad, so why are people raging in general? So, as we learned, there are two things why people are raging. First of all, they're annoyed that it's like an Alexi model, and it's like a knockoff or a copy, which is funny because they were the original, and basically Jackson has the patent for the body shape and everything. So yeah, the second thing is they're not Japan made, they're Korean made, which makes them a bit affordable though, or not. And then there's the fact that the Floyd is not recessed. Then again, there's nothing yet that you should be angry about, except something else, which is the price. And that's a big bummer. Okay, listen. As I'm filming this video, and this is the 8th of February, the prices have been fluctuating. So listen, this is hard now. Jackson first advertised it for $21.99 on their site. Yes, for a Korean-made guitar with similar specs that were available in the original made in Japan RR24 for basically half the price. Well, on Thomann you can pre-order it though now for $18.99. The official Jackson site now advertised it again for $18.59. So yeah, it seems like that every 2 weeks they change the price. But we'll see that in like 2 months for how much it actually retails for. Because it will be available for shipping approximately in 8 to 9 weeks. But also this information actually changed through the last couple of weeks. So it might be that it will be 7 to 9 weeks. It might be it will be less. I don't know. But the price is actually a bit insane. If you think about it, $1,900 for a Korean-made guitar with those specs is kinda much. But you get a case. Kinda. You get a fucking soft shell case. Like, what the fuck, Jackson? You're paying literally $1,900 at least for this guitar, and you get a soft shell case. You could fucking pack a gig back. Like, because I'm a guy that actually uses hard shell cases, and hard shell cases actually have value. Soft shell cases do not really. It's like gig bags. Nobody wants this shit, actually. Nobody's searching for this. There's no real resale value in those things. So for me, it's basically you give me a soft shell case, and I have to buy another case then. For $1,900, Jesus fucking Christ, and you advertised it first for $21.99, and you don't ship a hard shell case with that. Like, what the fuck, Jackson? Let's look at similar stuff, actually. Let's go actually to ESP and LTD and check what the Alexi costs and what you get there. So, to be fair, the current Alexi Laiho LTD model is a bit less. It's out for a bit longer, but it actually is a bit less, but it comes with a full hard shell case. Okay, so it doesn't have a preamp, it doesn't have some other specs that it should have for this price point, but then again, it's a signature model and it's ESP and LTD, and they lost their minds in terms of pricing anyway, and we saw that in the 2024 lineup again. So maybe that's not like the best comparison, but then again, this is insanity. Just put the fucking full case there. Like, Jackson, what are you doing? Well, I don't really see a reason to not buy it if you like it, other than it's too pricey and you don't have the money. Except, which we don't know yet, the Floyd Rose is absolutely unusable due to being top mounted, and you cannot really pull or push it, or the quality control is that bad that you actually don't want this guitar. Because I remember, for example, the BC Riches that were like 2022, 2021 lineups, something like this, for 1700 with the case, actually, for 1700, something like this, and the quality control was fucking awful. It was just fucking awful. People were complaining about those like hardly. I'm actually looking forward to it, and maybe you see this one on this channel, since it's the first Jackson in years that actually caught my interest, because it actually seems like a nice build and a nice guitar in general. The only thing that annoys me a bit is, like I said, the price, because it's a bit too much. It doesn't have a case for this price, which is... But everything else seems to be fine. The Floyd Rose 1000 is a nice piece of gear, but to be fair, for almost $2,000, they could have put an original, actually. Yeah, they could have put an original. They could, but they didn't. I'm glad that they put now the price to $1,859 and it drops, even though it's not even out yet. But it's concerning that it was advertised for $21.99, and with those specs then, with a soft shell case with a Floyd Rose 1000. But keep this in mind. Speaking long term, I think that those guitars will be valuable in a couple of years. I don't think they will lose much in terms of value. But what is your opinion about that? Are you actually one of the people who are angry about this guitar from Jackson? Or are you actually happy that finally there's something available that you can actually buy that is similar to something that you wanted to have, like the Jackson Stars, which are absolutely not accessible by now, or some of the RR24s from Japan from the late 2000s. So actually I'm glad that they put out something like this, because it was actually demanded for a very long time by a lot of people. Since I'm not a neck pickup guy and it always annoys me, this is actually a very nice guitar. So just tell me what's your opinion on this, and I will see you in a few days. Bye.